Well, good morning, everyone. This is going to be our second of 3 National Manufacturing Day events hosted by Catalyst Connection in collaboration with Penn State New Kensington and the Digital Foundry. It's great to be here. My name is Stephen Leonard. I am the Operations and Program Manager for the Digital Foundry here in New Kensington, an initiative that's been started by Penn State New Kensington to help in the transformation into digital technologies for manufacturers, as well as for individuals learning about digital manufacturing, smart manufacturing, and providing educational training benefits for that. So we have several distinguished guests joining us today, but before I introduce them, we will be recording this session for those school districts unable to attend. So they'll have the opportunity to be able to see this after the recording. And we can follow up with Catalyst Connection on some activities that can be provided as part of the National Manufacturing Day initiative that we're going to be doing. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share a short video thanking our manufacturers during this difficult time during COVID to kind of say thanks for all that you guys have done and gals have done for the benefit of our society and helping us get through this real difficult time. So with that, I'm going to have the recording start.
During a time that tested the dedication, determination, resiliency, and reliability of companies and employees everywhere, manufacturers of Northeastern and the northern tier of Pennsylvania never backed down. Instead, they doubled down on their resolve to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Some pivoted and innovated their ways into new markets to provide our country with much-needed safety equipment, medical device components, cleansers, sanitizers, and personal protective equipment. Others enhanced their safety protocols and ramped up to keep products on shelves, technology at our fingertips, shipments on the roads and rails, medicines nearby, and external threats at a distance. Our regional manufacturers were the stronghold that kept us healthy and safe while keeping our economy running. It's no surprise that our manufacturers had our back during the pandemic. After all, we hail from communities and families that fueled the Industrial Revolution, forged the iron and steel that built our nation, and worked the land and harvested the yield for generations. Now, that ingrained work ethic is coupled with advanced technology, connectivity, diversity, and collaboration, and our manufacturing potential is limitless. We're not out of the woods yet, but our industrial engine is still running strong, and we're confident that our manufacturers will continue to lead us through whatever challenges await. Today, on this National Manufacturing Day of 2021, we pause to say thank you to the manufacturers that have healed, protected, nourished, energized, maintained, and comforted us over the past year, and their 44,000 regional employees. Please accept our most sincere thankfulness and gratitude for jobs well done when we needed you the most. Happy Manufacturing Day. We appreciate you.
Well, that really kind of gives us the sentiment for how we want to thank you all for what you've been able to do as manufacturers during this difficult time. So we really wanted to have that opportunity to share that video. I believe that video was developed by another similar organization, Scott, to what you guys do in the Northeast of Pennsylvania. But it's very touching, and it really gets to the point. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to welcome our guests and panelists this morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on each, and each will be able to give about a 2-minute background on what they do, where they're at, what their company does. And after that, we can get right into some questions. So let me start with, I'm going to go across the top here. How about Chris Magalich? If you could start, that'd be great.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. Yes, my name is Chris Magalich. I'm the production engineering manager at Koch Vandegrift. We're closer to Leechburg than Vandegrift, but we're part of Koch Medical. And I'm going to try to share my screen here and show you a little bit of what we do. I've been at Koch for 17 years. Okay, yeah, we have laser extraction products, Doppler, and pipettes. Of those three product lines, we have dilators and power lead extraction devices, and these are mainly used to remove old pacemaker leads inside of patients that have been implanted up to 20 years. Doppler monitor is a device used to actually monitor blood flow inside free flap procedures and transplants. It actually takes blood flow and turns it into light and sound so physicians can monitor that the procedure was successful. The pipette line is our largest by volume. And it's actually used for IVF pipettes. It's used to harvest sperm and eggs and to have IVF children. So that's sort of a top level summary of Cook Vandegrift. And I'm glad to be here and answer any questions as we move forward.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Chris. Just to advise Scott and others, my Zoom is not acting properly. So I'm going to go on to Gavrin. If you want to go ahead and talk, I may have to exit and get back in again. So go ahead, Gavrin.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Govardhan Singh. I work as a site head for Saxonburg Supply Center here in Saxonburg. I'm part of Bayer Healthcare. Bayer is a large company. We have three main divisions: crop science, pharmaceuticals, and consumer health. And at Saxonburg facility, we produce pharmaceutical products. Specifically, we produce disposables that is used during CT, MR, and CV injectors to diagnose ailments. We have approximately 400 people at the site, and we run 24/7. So it's a very exciting and very challenging operations that we do day to day here at the Saxonburg facility. And I look forward to answering all the questions and hopefully hire as many of you as possible.
Well, thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Just to double check. Okay, my video is out, so I'm going to leave my video off and we'll continue on. So thank you very much, Gavrin. Why don't we move to Brian Bortz?
My name is Brian Bortz. I work for Sloan Lubrication Systems. We specialize in automated lubrication systems, and our primary market is the natural gas industry. So anytime there is compression where they're compressing gas either coming out of the ground or in a transmission line, we lubricate those compressors, which has been very critical throughout the last year. We did quite a few large projects, primarily focusing on natural gas power plants and whatnot. I don't have a video to share.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much, Brian. So let's move on to Brian Powell.
Good morning. So thank you for having me today. I represent Accrotool. We're out of New Kensington, on the outskirts of New Kensington in the business and industrial park. And so Accrotool has been around since 1972. We are a metal fabrication business, soup to nuts. We do everything from the blank sheet metal all the way through cutting, punching. Actually, we have a customized silk screen area. We have a weld shop across the parking lot. In our second building, we have a CNC machine shop. So we certainly are equipped to do a little bit of everything. We're a contract manufacturer, so we're here to serve our customers in a lot of different ways. One of our, I'd say, primary products we're putting out is metal enclosures. If you're ever in a hospital or a school or a public building, you might look up in the ceiling tiles and you'll see a metal box. Those metal boxes are made here at Accrotool. They house the Wi-Fi equipment that you so much rely upon every day. So, yeah, we're kind of tucked away here in New Ken, and we're here to do anything metal fabrication related. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. I really do appreciate that. So let's wrap up as far as introductions with Kevin Jones. Kevin, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning. So, Ectobox, as a company, we are what we like to think of as an industrial intelligence solutions company. And that for us means that we work with manufacturing companies to help them operate more efficiently and grow. And we typically do that by connecting to machines, to people, and to other software systems in the company to pull data from those systems, pull it together, convert that data to valuable information, and help people understand what's going on. So if you will, in the absence of a video, imagine a manufacturing company. Imagine a factory floor with a lot of machines like Accrotool or another company. Presses, CNC machines, there are compressors, there could be, but who knows what kind of machines. And you have raw materials going in one end of the plant. They then design the products. Then they run these raw materials through each of those machines to create products. Well, what they want to do is to do that as efficiently as possible. They want the machines to run as long as possible without breaking down. And then when they are going to break down, they want to be able to predict when that's going to happen. They want to be able to pull data from these machines to understand what's going on. And that's what we do. We connect directly to the machines. So we have software developers on our team. We have what we call IoT engineers, people who understand PLCs and other small rugged computer devices that are used in the manufacturing plant. And we do a lot of technical work to connect to those devices, pull the data out. We write software using various programming languages, use databases to store the data, and convert that data to valuable information and create dashboards and give those dashboards to people on mobile devices. We do mobile development on little tablets, on the big screens on the plant floor, and on people's laptops and desktop computers. And it's in creating that information, pulling that information together, that people understand what's really going on at the company in real time. So we create what we refer to as IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things solutions, remote machine monitoring, MES systems, manufacturing execution systems, goes by many names. But that's the kind of work we do. We're a small company located in Pittsburgh near the North Shore between Heinz Field and PNC Park. We're about 15 people and I'm the owner. I come from a background of doing software and data systems for about 30 years, and our company has been around for 20 years. I'm the owner, president of the company, and really glad to be here.
Thanks very much, Kevin. I appreciate that. So let me ask my first question. I think it's probably on the minds of a lot of the students that they want to know how you ended up where you ended up, and like, what is your story? I think it's really important to understand how you got involved in the field that you're in, specifically around manufacturing. So I'm actually going to call on you, Kevin Jones, again, maybe to start. And if you could maybe spend just a minute or so kind of walking through what your story is and how you got involved into where you're at now.
It's a crazy path. But if I were to think about it, I hadn't thought about this before, but when you just mentioned that question, the word passion comes to mind. For me, I followed my passion. So I started off in engineering, mechanical engineering at University of Pittsburgh, and then got into music for a while too, a lot of performing music and music education. And then ended up spending a lot of time in accounting. Worked for an accounting firm, got my certificate, was sitting for the CPA exam for accounting, and discovered software. I had to learn how to write some software programs for the work that we were doing at the accounting firm. And a friend of mine in the IT department said, you know, you could use this software here and do this kind of stuff. And he said, you know, you can make money doing this software kind of stuff for a living. And I said, really? Sign me up. So I got into doing software. And the first products that I started to create many, many years ago was for the Pittsburgh Symphony, where I started to run my own little business as an entrepreneur, a very young entrepreneur. And then from there progressed, because we had so much manufacturing in the area, started to work for manufacturing companies, started to find out that there's a lot of really interesting things that go on inside the manufacturing plant. And it gets even more interesting when you look at the machines and what goes on with them. And so we then started to get into IoT, Internet of Things. And so then I started to migrate and focus the company of 15 people to really get into this kind of work that I just described before. So it was really following the passion, because I love solving challenges. I love using technology, putting puzzles together. And also, quite honestly, I love seeing how stuff is made. I've seen Q-tips being manufactured. I've seen wheels being manufactured. I don't know, I'll think of other things I've seen manufactured, a lot of them. I just love to see how stuff is made. And so I get to combine all that stuff into my passion. And so it ends up being a really cool job.
So I didn't really discover what I wanted to do until after my undergraduate, after college. I had gone through a 4-year degree in communications from Clarion University, recently renamed, I believe. And so came out of that, worked in radio for about a year, worked in copywriting, was writing advertisements you hear on the radio. and then realized can't make a living doing that. Can't really, it's not going to work. So a lot of college debt, no money coming in. I gotta pivot. I gotta figure something else out. So I took my journey led me then to, I was inspired actually when I was working for the radio station and saw some, I'll say some mismanagement of the human resources function within that organization. And it sort of inspired me to go seek my master's from IUP in industrial and labor relations. So that was my segue into human resources. I've been a human resources manager, well, not manager, but I've been in human resources now for about 17 years. Most of that time in manufacturing. So I've been in various manufacturing companies, various product lines. I think I've spent probably the most of my time in metal manufacturing in the last few years. So it's, I love it. I love working with people. It was I guess I'll call it accidental victory for me that I got into human resources, but it turned out really well for me. It's provided really well for me and my family. And I enjoy my job. I enjoy working with people every day, helping people to navigate the company policies and functions. And I enjoy this industry. I enjoy the metal manufacturing industry as well. So thank you.
I don't know if we should be making this a little conversational, but if you don't mind me commenting, throwing in a quick comment, Brian, it sounds like you kind of followed your passion too. You found a passion, found an interest, much like me, and you drove it, and that's been your career then since then. Is that fair to say?
I would agree. Yeah, I guess I would share that there was some passion with that. So yes.
Cool, awesome.
I'm going to kick it over to Chris again, playing stand-in moderator until he gets feedback.
Sure. I guess I'm a typical engineer. I started taking things apart as a young kid. I knew I was going to go to Penn State to be a mechanical engineer from maybe I was a sophomore in high school. So that's the path I took. I graduated from Penn State, bounced around a few companies after I graduated, and just ended up at Cook. I just love manufacturing. Every day is a new challenge. I'm fortunate here at Cook that I've had the opportunity to get into product development. So I've done the R&D side along with the manufacturing side. I've had a great opportunity to bounce into various hospitals, talk to a lot of physicians. So I feel like I have a deep understanding, at least as a mechanical engineer, of what we do and how it helps people every day. Cook's a great company where they do truly make patient first. And I've just decided to stay here. Like I said, I think I stated earlier, it's been 17 years. I plan on staying here for a while. We have machine shops, rapid prototyping. We get to see different types of manufacturing every day here. I get to try different things, and I have a team of other engineers that I get to mentor now. And it's just been a great opportunity, and I look forward to continuing it.
So I grew up with a neighbor that was a mechanical engineer, and we had often worked together in a garage, and he inspired me to go to school to become an engineer. And he always pushed me to focus on the manufacturing side. I had the opportunity to work for 3 different companies while I was in school that did a wide variety of manufacturing, from tool and die to Sloan Lubrication, where I currently work, to another company that was focusing on the railroad industry. After graduating from Penn State Barron's, I took a job at a steel mill as a maintenance manager. At first, I was looking at this as, oh, there's lots of money here, and lots of room to grow. But one thing was made very clear very quickly is I liked what I did from a job perspective, but I didn't like the environment I was working in. And there was an opening that came up at Sloan Lubrication for a design engineering position. So I interviewed, I was accepted. And from there, in a very short period of time, I've went from working as a design engineer to working as a manufacturing engineer to working with our field service team to working as a project manager last year for one of the largest projects we've ever done as an organization, to now in a sales engineering role. And how I ended up in sales was by accident. So on the side, I'm into antique tractor pulling, and I, of course, buy and sell to pay for my addictions, you could say. And within that, I realized that I really enjoyed sales, and it was that personal interaction. It's having that technical and engineering background and understanding the nuts and bolts of what our customers are looking for and being able to deliver quickly on that. That's why I'm passionate. I love what I do.
That's great. I love the tractor pulling hobby of yours. That's really cool. Guardian, why don't you wrap up on this question, and then we can go to our next question.
Yeah, I've had an interesting ride, I have to say. I was listening to a lot of you, and most of you are mechanical engineer. That resonated with me because I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Moved to US, I believe, right around 2000 to do my master's in engineering, and then started working at Abbott Labs. And that's how I got my entry into pharmaceutical medical device business. Over the years, what drove me from one job to another job is basically, this passion for manufacturing operations. So it's not only, producing something, but managing global supply chain across multiple countries, multiple time zones. It's very complicated and very challenging, and we see that how it is playing out today. We never know that a third-tier supplier is maybe thousands of miles away, and it's just interesting how the decisions made at the third-tier supplier will impact us without us having a clear knowledge about it. It's just that the challenges that comes through with manufacturing operations kept me learning more and more, and my career has spanned working in India, working in US, and I came back to US only like 3 months back. I took up an assignment to integrate a company for Bayer in Australia for 4 years. So I worked in Australia, which was very interesting. I have moved around within Bayer for last 15 years in multiple plants, two different continents. It's just been an exciting ride for me.
Oh, that's a great story. So you've traveled, it seems like you've traveled quite a bit. Is that true?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about?
Well, traveling, so when I was in, I think it was 2015, 16, when I was still in Pittsburgh, I was managing, I worked in the Saxonburg and O'Hara facility that we have here. At that time, we were visiting suppliers. I think that couple years I visited like 10 countries in a matter of 12 months, so a lot of travel, going and meeting the suppliers, because the thing is, no matter how much communications has improved, going and having a face-to-face conversation, the relationship that you build, you can't put a value to it. So yeah, I've done that. However, from a career standpoint, I have taken risks, and I have taken advantages of opportunities. Australia was wonderful. I had to go and integrate a company into Bayer, run the whole operations there, everything from manufacturing to global supply chain. It was just a fantastic opportunity. Australia is a very young, diverse country. The average age of the people that I was working was around, I would say, like 25, 26. And I think there were people from 20 different countries working in our plant there, which was just amazing. The diversity was just amazing. So yeah, it's been a fun ride, Steve.
Oh, that's great. One of the things that comes to mind and lead to the next question is we're seeing a lot of changes in manufacturing, specifically with the integration of data and digital technologies. It would be great if you could maybe talk to that on how various people of different disciplines, maybe from information sciences or people that love computers, some of the students really love computers, talk about how that can be really important to manufacturing. I think that'd be a great kind of guidance for them. So let me, how about you, Chris? Why don't you start?
Oh, that's a good question, Steve. I mean, from an IT perspective, the data has to flow freely, and then you have to know what to do with it. So from an IT perspective, we have to manipulate the data. We have to present it to the stakeholders so they can make the right decisions with it. So it is a back and forth. I'm not sure if, being a mechanical engineer on the manufacturing side, I'm not sure if I can deep dive into it like Kevin can, but it does have to present it clearly, because sometimes you can be overwhelmed by the amount of data coming in. So from an IT perspective, if you can make that clean, and on the manufacturing floor, there's all kinds of interferences. Wi-Fi is an option. Obviously, Ethernet's a cleaner connection, but you don't always have that. And just presenting options that can be rolled out easily and how they can integrate with the company's systems. So again, it's just how you manipulate the data. I hope that gave some insight from my perspective.
Oh, thank you. Well, maybe Kevin, why don't you give us some insights on that? That'd be great. Specifically, you've been hearing a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Sure, absolutely. I was just taking a couple notes as thoughts came to mind during this conversation here. I think the thing to think about when we think about data and manufacturing is everything said so far is true. One of the key principles is to keep in mind what's the problem you're solving in the plant floor. We use data not just on the plant floor, but in all aspects, including human resources and engineering, product development, R&D, as well as the accounting, of course, as well as how to run the plant efficiently, et cetera. But no matter what you're doing with within the plant itself, if you're going to talk about data and trying to use data and share data and apply a lot of the technologies, it really starts with what's the business challenge you have? What's the problem to solve? Well, it's just like anything. I'll use a very simple analogy. My son, he's almost 9 years old. He loves baseball. He's grown up with baseball. He just loves the MLB, professional baseball, loves to look at stats and understand. He's not quite into being able to calculate, batting average and, OPS and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But he loves to look at stuff. And he'll ask me, Dad, hey, I want to do this. How do I use this software? How do I use this particular software? And I say, well, let's back up. His name is Drake. I say, let's back up. And what are you trying to accomplish here? What problem are you trying to solve? Well, I'm trying to do this. Oh, well, that might be a good tool, but why don't you look at this tool over here? This might be a better approach to do that kind of thing. So I try to get him and our manufacturing clients that we work with to stop and think about the business challenge they're trying to solve in the plant first. What's the problem? Is it the machines are not producing enough? Or is it the quality is bad? Or are you not able to hire people for a particular role? And then once you define that problem pretty well, then at that point, we can start to look at the technologies. And if we think about, one of the big topics out there today, Industry 4.0, which is this idea of using a lot of different technologies to solve challenges within manufacturing, including big data, cloud, cybersecurity, AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and all these other kind of things. If you think about it and put those in a circle, right at the center of all of those is data. And so data becomes a really key tool that everybody needs to get comfortable with, understand how to use, how to work with, and then go from there. AI and machine learning can be really, really powerful. But again, before you can start to apply those kinds of tools, you have to understand the challenge you're solving at that point. And there isn't enough time in this call here, or you could create a whole university course around what technologies are out there to use. But it's the careers that we really start to see developing today are people that understand how to work with that data. That can use SQL, structured query languages. They can use Python, Perl, and other programming languages, C#, et cetera. They can also then understand how databases work, how software works, and then also understands how some of the hardware works, the PLCs, the machines, and then be able to integrate the two of them and work with that data to solve challenges. I'm kind of getting jumbled up in my mind because there are so many different directions we could take this conversation. But I think the key point when we think about data in manufacturing is there's loads of problems we can solve with it, but you really have to start with trying to figure out what the problem is to solve first before we get into all the fun technologies, which we really love doing.
Well, thanks, Kevin.
Stephen, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Brian Powell, how about you? I mean, how does Accrotool work in this evolving and transforming digital space?
That's a great question. That's actually it's a hard question to answer. So we're not an extremely what I would say high tech organization, but I will say that we I would say our next evolution of equipment will rely heavily upon the IT segment, the data segment, all that equipment, the more sophisticated automated equipment that we want to usher in the next few years will demand that type of employee who can work with that data, who can work through that information. That's going to be a huge, I think that's where manufacturing is going. I mean, there's an evolution. If your company has not evolved yet into that equipment, it will. I was just reading last night. I want to share this. And if you haven't heard, Deloitte put out a statistic, and this was in 2020. That, and of course, this is my interest is labor, people. That as many as 2.4 million factory jobs could remain unfilled through 2028 because of a tight labor market and a lack of people with the needed skills. So why I'm saying that is back to my point about automation. With that amount of labor shortage, we need to automate, and that automation again will require sophisticated employees who can work in that segment of information and data. So that's about all I have.
Oh, that's great.
Stephen, do you mind if I make a comment too on that, Stephen? So Brian, really good points. And what we're actually seeing is some of the titles that are starting to come up as automation becomes more prevalent because people aren't available to work the machines and they have to automate more of the processes. Some of the operations people are operators, the ones who are technically savvy, like you say, that can work with data, understand how to use the data and make decisions. We're starting to see the title of operations analyst come up. As a role where one person might be monitoring not just one or two machines, but maybe a whole line or a whole set of machines, and then pretty much spending almost all their day looking at data, trying to solve problems with that data to make sure that everything's running as smoothly as possible. And this is where we're providing solutions to those people for them to be able to have the dashboards and alarms and notifications and all the other kinds of things that they need to be able to be aware of what's going on in the plant. But operations analysts, keyword analysts, where they can analyze data, is a role that we start to see coming up a lot. And I think that's a really nice place for people to focus, getting into the careers in manufacturing, understanding how the machines operate, working the machines, understanding engineering. But then really the key is data and analyzing the data. And that's where that title comes from.
Thanks, Kevin. Brian Bortz, how would you answer that question? I mean, what do you guys?
So we have launched back in 2018 a smart lubrication system, and this system includes additional data logging and monitoring that has never been offered before. And when we originally launched this product line, it was scary to see the data coming in because we're seeing data we have never seen before, nor did we understand what it was. And it didn't take long for us to realize that the more data we were recording, the more we wanted to record, and the more we wanted to look at, and the more we wanted to understand. And it's so important because, last year we were able to troubleshoot and diagnose systems that were going to fail. And since we knew that there was a failure motive coming, we were able to have our customer schedule an outage to perform the maintenance needed on that system prior to it shutting down during a critical time. If anyone recalls, last year it was like an ice age, and there were some power grid issues throughout the country. And our products support that industry to generate power. But one of the things that is challenging when you introduce any type of additional monitoring data and there's analysis involved is you do need somebody that has that higher level understanding of the systems to work with the systems. So some of that is due to the unwillingness of the people in our industry, not interested in learning something new or the technology they have in front of them. Other times it's they need somebody to fill that position, so they take an engineer such as myself to do incorporate my engineering knowledge or anyone's engineering knowledge and take it down to a technical level to be able to understand and troubleshoot that system. But with that engineering knowledge, you also have to understand the mechanical side behind whatever system you're working on. And you can apply that to any industry that's out there, in my opinion. But I know we have seen a struggle with implementing new technology in an industry that isn't always open and interested in new things.
Great. Thank you, Brian. That was really insightful. Gavrin, how would you like to weigh in on that?
Well, it's interesting, to hear all the different perspectives. Really good. What I tell my leadership team and my engineers is, there is a lot of information out there, and it takes education to convert information into knowledge, and it takes experience to convert knowledge to wisdom. For me, when I look at that, the key factor in this is people. Okay, do we have people who are educated enough to convert information to knowledge, and can we provide them an environment where they can, basically convert that knowledge to wisdom? And so we are always looking for people who can come, learn, and basically reach their fullest potential. And we have a lot of young engineers who have recently joined, and we also basically provide good opportunities for people who are working on an automations that we have in the plant. By the way, our plant is fully automated. I mean, wherever you go, there are so many robots and so much of automation, and we have an MES system that we utilize. It's just, everywhere you look, there is an opportunity. And the question is, which opportunity do you work on and why becomes the key. And sometimes, just identifying which opportunity to work on, it's actually, it requires some degree of wisdom. Information is not sufficient, knowledge is not sufficient. So we want people to be with us as long as possible, and help us convert knowledge to wisdom, because that's a competitive advantage.
Oh, that's great, Gavrin. I'm actually calling you again.
Yeah.
If you were to select maybe the top 3 skills that you think are necessary for folks entering into the business world or manufacturing, can you just briefly describe that?
Yeah,
I think it would be great for the students to know that.
Well, the thing is, the systems are, all of our equipment and the processes are so integrated. We will take any engineering degree, whether it's electrical, mechanical, software, industrial. For me, yeah, for us, definitely some level of engineering background is definitely something that we are looking for. And we don't necessarily need to have a bachelor's degree. Even an associate's degree will be a good start for us. We definitely are looking for people, like I think Kevin shared, data analysts, because that is something that I have written down. That is an area that we are definitely looking in. People who can, are comfortable, what I call connecting the dots. That's the skill set we are definitely looking into. And the third one that we definitely are very short of is, and we are always looking for, is systems engineers who can basically integrate software, electrical and mechanical skills, and help us to troubleshoot electromechanical systems.
Oh, great. Thank you. How about you, Brian Bortz? What do you think are the 3 top skills or capabilities that people need to have these
One of the things we find most challenging at Sloan's when we're looking for new employees, whether that is in our field service department or engineering, is finding people that have hands-on experience in their industry or just in general. So if you're working in the manufacturing environment, understanding when you're designing a part, what a 5 thousandths tolerance really is. I had the opportunity to work in a machine shop, and when I was designing components, I knew that somebody may or may not like the drawing I put out there if it wasn't accurate to what they could actually manufacture. So understanding limitations and having a little bit of experience with any new role you step into, you have to have that willingness to learn. And sometimes that puts yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and being able to, go through that and say, okay, I'm not sure about this, but I'm going to try it. You'll never regret it. And I would say the last thing is never stop learning. So it's very easy to look at these opportunities that are out there, step into a new role, or be in an industry that you like, or maybe you think it's stale. There's so much more to learn about what everyone does each and every day. And too often we get too busy with just our normal daily activities. So I'd say the skills that we really look for are to have that hands-on understanding and dedication, the willingness to learn, and also step outside your comfort zone so you can continue to grow.
Thanks, Brian. Brian Powell, words of wisdom, the 3 top skills.
That's another good question, Steve. Accrotool, due to the composition of our workforce, we have a wide range of skill sets and experiences that we're seeking. But I think to try to summarize 3 top, I'd say, virtues that we would seek in anyone, no matter what their skill set. I think I'm gonna echo what Brian Bortz said, and the learning attitude is paramount. I think you have to have that in your DNA, like a lifelong learner, I guess. You can come to us with that, and also I think just an overall good work ethic, and I think that'll take you a long way. I've met many people over my years in interviews and talent, and you can have a very degreed, very skilled person who really just doesn't have the right attitude, and it's just not gonna work. It's just they have to have that team attitude, the willingness to learn attitude, and just have an overall. And also, it's kind of a running gag in HR. If you can't show up for work, you're not doing us any good, right? So you have to actually come to work too. So I guess that's part of the ethic. But I think just overall, I think I would impress upon everyone that it's just that the right attitude and the willingness to learn. That's only 2, I guess. I apologize. I can't think of a third one, but that's all I have.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. How about you, Chris?
Well, Steve, I've had some time to think about this one, and narrowing it down to 3 is probably tough. But to echo who's gone before me, open to change. We have a 5-year plan, but we have to look past 5 years. And whatever you do 3 years from now is going to change, and you can't get stuck in a rut. I mean, technology is constantly evolving, and you have to be open to new ideas, open to new technologies. So, a good electromechanical background works for us. We also have biomechanical engineers, since we are a medical industry, so that works a little bit. But in general, a good background in problem solving, you have to come in and be ready to address anything. And I like to say that my engineers need to be handy with the wrench too, because we're a small company, so you're going to be on the production floor, and you don't get to sit behind a desk every day. And sometimes you're going to be asked to go out and just open up a machine that's not working. It's very open-ended. We're not really sure what's going to happen. It could be a solenoid, it could be a switch. Sometimes you just have to figure that out. And then, I also think going forward with all the automation, and I like the terms, I think operation analyst and such like that, you have to have a solid background in maybe lean manufacturing techniques, and just what to do with the data and all the information that can be coming at you as an operator these days. We're always looking for preventative maintenance. So you have to understand what's going on with the machine, why it's slowing down, and what changes you can present moving forward to make corrections. So you have to, just basic problem solving and corrective action techniques.
Thanks,
I think
Chris. Kevin,
very
we'll wrap
top
up with you. Three skills or virtues you think are important.
Only three? Really? Do I have to limit it to three? It's so hard. I'm listening to all these options, and I'm certainly finding the theme of learning, because I picked up on that early, and I wrote it down early when I was listening. And what I wrote down for around learning was hungry and disciplined to learn. Anybody who is really hungry to learn and they're disciplined to be able to sit down and take on a topic and learn it on their own. I have a huge amount of respect when I interview people and they say, oh yeah, this is the latest thing I've been learning. I was just working on it yesterday, as opposed to, yeah, I read that book because I had to. No, that doesn't work for us. It's hungry and disciplined for learning. So learning, I think throughout pretty much all of the conversations here has been one of the key ones. Character, got to show up for work. That really has to be there too. But I'm not going to call these skills, but I'll just call them attributes that are really required. I'll pick out two more. I'm going to cheat and go for an extra one. There are even more that I could go through here. Programming. For us as a company that provides solutions and services to the manufacturers to put these kinds of solutions in place when they're not able to do it themselves, because we bring in specialized knowledge, we need people who know how to write software, at least to the basic early stages of doing that kind of work. And then we can mentor and help them grow a lot more, but only if they are very hungry and disciplined to learn. And the third one is on the electromechanical side. I heard that brought up here at least once or twice. For us, because we do connect with machines a lot, and we have to understand how the machines work, how the signals come out of the machines, how we can pull the data out and then convert that data to information. And then I love this idea of needing education to convert information to knowledge, which is really developing awareness, and then using experience to then convert that knowledge to wisdom, which is knowing what to do next. I just wanted to highlight that one too. That's really, really valuable insight there.
Well, thanks, Kevin. All right, gentlemen, we're going to have one last question, but it's going to be a speed round. So it's a very simple question, but if you could say in just one statement, what makes your job cool? So we'll start with Chris.
My job is cool because I get to see something new every day, and I'm always forced outside my comfort zone with new skills and new problems to solve.
Thanks, Chris. All right, Brian, how about you? Brian Powell.
Off the top of my head, my job is cool because I think I'm just repeating myself. I love helping people every day and making a difference in their lives, and also kind of being that intermediary between the employee and the business, and kind of keeping everything on the rails. So that's it.
That's great. Brian Bortz, how about you?
I really enjoy working with our customers and helping them with issues they may have, or looking at new opportunities to implement new technology.
That's great. Kevin, how about you?
Well, it's seeing how things are made. I had an opportunity to just think a little bit about other things that I've seen, like Q-tips, wheels, coolers, like the type of coolers you put your beer and pop in, drive shafts for naval ships, hip joint replacement parts for humans and their hips, mufflers for motorcycles. I mean, countless things I've seen manufactured. Love it. So cool to see all that stuff that goes together to make stuff.
Oh, that's great. And we'll wrap up with you, Gavardian.
So, two things that makes my job cool. One, I get to learn every day with every person I meet. It's just amazing, how much you can learn just listening to people, and the talent that they have. The second thing is, every day when I walk in, when I wake up, I know that the products that we produce at our plant, there will be more than 150,000 patients across the globe who will be using it that day. And it can be my parents, it can be my friend, it can be my extended family. Knowing that there is a purpose in life to walk in, go to that manufacturing plant and produce that product to make an impact on so many people's life. Just thinking about it gives me wild goosebumps. So, thank you. That's what makes it cool.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think that was a really great panel session. Some really great, strong answers. I appreciate that on behalf of our team. What I'd like to do now to wrap up the program, I've got two students, what we are calling next turns. They're special interns, as we call them, are going to talk a little bit about their projects. I'll let them introduce themselves as they present. I think this will be very fascinating for the students that are going to see the recording here on some of the things that we're working on at Penn State New Kensington as part of advancing digital technologies. So the first student will be Anthony Polizzeski. So Anthony, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You should be able to share. And you've got about 5 minutes to talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Awesome. Hi, guys. So before I begin, I'd like to apologize. A street sweeper has just parked outside of my house, just right outside. I can see it right out the window. The warning light on it is beeping. So if you can hear it, oh, looks like it's moving. Thank goodness. I was just hoping that this would pass before my presentation began. But as long as you can't hear it now, then I think we're good to go. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anthony Polizzeski, and I'm a senior at Penn State New Kensington studying communications. The project that I'm working on is the New Kensington lobby project. It means I'm building a digital replica of the entrance of Penn State New Kensington from scratch using 3D modeling software and importing that 3D model into an environment where it can be explored in virtual reality. So to accomplish the task of building this digital twin of the lobby from scratch, our team started by taking 3D scans of the interior and exterior of the school using iPads. The most recent iPad, I don't know what generation it is, and every iPhone from the iPhone 12 Pro on are capable of doing LiDAR scanning. It's the same kind of scanning that they scan the surface of the moon with, but essentially it just means that we get to take a really, really good 3D scan with our iPhones or an iPad. Then we want to, so that's represented here on these leftmost icons. That's the 3D scanner app icon and the Mesh Lab icon that we used. Then we went about recreating the lobby using 3D modeling software, and then we used the scans that we had taken as reference. And the software that we're using is Autodesk Maya and Unity. It's represented there in the center. It's the same software that's used by professional digital artists and video game developers. Our ultimate goal was to export these 3D models into a virtual live environment where anyone would be able to walk around inside of them. The virtual environment can be used by the campus admissions department or our on-campus Lion ambassadors, our tour people, to give tours to prospective students, or they could be explored at one's own pace following built-in markers and interactive elements. That's represented over here with the XR. That's what you're about to see. So this should be seamless. You'll have to tell me. Can you see that? Great. Okay, so here we are in my virtual reality environment. And anybody who's been to Penn State New Kensington, this should look kind of familiar to you at least. I've got directions here. And as we go in, you'll see it looks at least a little bit like the real thing. We've got our Starbucks. We've got tables and chairs by the windows where students really sit in real life, where I have really sat in real life. Most importantly, a hallway with interactive elements. So as was described on that poster, you can actually click on these, and I'm not going to pull one up, but you can hear a little bit about the school via YouTube video. Originally, this stuff was made with the intention being that students would go to the campus by themselves and find these posters in real life. That's why they have QR codes on them. But because things happened so quickly with COVID, that never came to, and we had these assets to use, we were able to integrate these really easy. As you can see, I spent a lot of time looking at pictures for reference and just recreating this environment. I'll take you into this classroom so you can see. This is what it's really like at Penn State New Kensington. And I think that prospective students from all over the world, not just in the United States or just in Pennsylvania, would love to be able to come in and explore this. In fact, I was talking with a student who's from, excuse me, maybe Delaware or Vermont. I can't remember which one. His name is Evan. And I was showing him this and he said, hey, I see I see the seat that I said it was this one. And I said, is this what it looks like when you're looking at the teacher? He said, actually, yeah. And I said, in that case, I did a good job. So I think that's really all the more I have to share. I'm going to hand it over to Nick.
Well, before you do, I have a couple of questions. So
Oh, hit me, Steve.
when did you start to learn how to build these things?
Great question. We started in May, in the second week of May. And this is the result of, I've been saying this is the result of 40 hours of training and a lot of tinkering. So we had 2 weeks to learn about how to do all of those things that I showed you in my visual aid, from doing the scanning on one day to doing, my Unity training in the next week, to doing, importing it all into the virtual reality environment. So that's an answer, I guess.
So what's your background? I think it'd be interesting for the students to know that.
Sure. So I have absolutely no background in this stuff. As I said, I'm a communications student, and so this is all out of my realm. I'm, at least I thought I was a much better journalist than I was 3D modeler. But the truth is that I think that anybody who applies themselves can learn how to do this with relative ease. In fact, I have blown myself away. I can remember in the first couple of weeks telling a classmate of mine, I can't believe that we are able to keep up. I can't believe that I'm keeping up with like what we're learning. She said to me, me either, but that's why they picked us. It just takes a certain amount of commitment.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. If you want to unshare, we can have Nick kind of walk through what he's built.
Gladly. And thank you guys for your time.
Why don't you introduce yourself, Nick?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Gavrin, and I am a second-year civil engineering student at Penn State New Kensington. So throughout the externship we were offered in the summer, I was in charge of the industry outreach portion, where I tried to design a virtual manufacturing space to provide an area where local businesses can come in, potentially have their setup modeled and test different flow paths, floor plans, and then be able to walk through and explore them. As well as this is a space where training sessions can happen, or even college professors or high school teachers can bring their students into this space and expose them to what a real life manufacturing facility is all about. So I can walk you through here. You can see we have a little welcome message here. It tells you how to navigate the scene. As we move through, you can notice these floor paths, and this is where kind of the training aspect comes in to play. You in a normal manufacturing facility, there are floor paths that you must follow to stay safe, to stay on track, and that is what's advised in the scene as well. It'll help you navigate the scene. Here we have a little forklift safety demonstration, so we have some basic things about what you can do. And if you click the forklift, it pops up a link to an OSHA approved training video. So you could watch that. So here we're in the loading dock of the scene. So this is where the semi trucks are going to pull up, unload their materials on a conveyor belt here. We have the raw materials in the scene. And then throughout the scene, there are these text boxes. So if you're doing this by yourself, it's very easy to navigate and understand what is going on. If we follow the floor paths, we can see a variety of machines here. This is kind of the manufacturing floor. We have a CNC lathe here. This is something that I modeled completely from scratch. These aren't very hard to make. This whole thing actually goes rather quickly once you get the hang of it. So it's very efficient and cost effective if you're using it for your workplace. And here we can see there's an axle being made inside of there. Next, we have this 5-axis CNC machine. If you notice these yellow boxes, these are actually representing sensors that are integrated into the machine. These sensors are hooked up to this desktop computer here for preventative maintenance. Now, if you look closely, you can see a little warning sign that says the temperature or the engine is getting too hot, as well as there's too much tool head vibration. So this is where you can come in, perform potentially preventative maintenance to fix the machine before it breaks down completely. Then we can move on here. We have a welding station. You can learn the aspects of that. We have basic dimension checkers. So as the parts come through the facility, they're checked every maybe couple thousand units, depending on what you're making, to make sure it's within the correct tolerances. Next, they're assembled here, and we have a packaging room. So this is another place where if you're doing something like learning how to package boxes, this is a great activity where you can come in and learn the basics. We start with an empty box. We can click it, it moves down to the next step. Click it again, the part goes in, and this goes the whole way down the line to finally adding a shipping label. So this is a great demonstration. This was coded in Python, I believe. So that's just one of the many aspects of interactiveness we can add into these scenes. As we follow the floor paths here, we have a little sorting room and then into an exit loading dock. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Nick. So you built that entire thing from scratch?
Yeah, the only thing I didn't make was the forklift at the beginning. That was a model we pulled off of a site on the internet.
Okay. What did you like best about this experience or about building this model?
I personally really like building stuff in real life, from woodworking to some forging I do. So this was kind of like a quick way to build a lot of stuff. And I was able to get really kind of creative with it. It was pretty open-ended. So I could just kind of take it down the path I envisioned with it. And I really enjoyed it. It was really cool to make something and then be able to share it with a bunch of people.
Well, that's great. Well, gentlemen, Anthony and Nick, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing what you were working on as far as your next term projects at Penn State New Kensington. So we thank you very much. And our panelists, we're going to wrap up. I want to thank you all for a really wonderful session, some really excellent words of wisdom that I think will be very useful for the students considering entering into manufacturing. So with that, thank you all, and we're going to wrap up, and we wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. And to the students that are going to be listening to this, we hope that this is of value, and I hope to hear from you. So thank you all, and have a great day.